Hi, Alissa.
Hey, Katy.
Welcome to episode number 309, Mentors and Mentees.
This is a good one.
I can't wait to go over all of the interesting information we've collected.
Yeah.
Because our listeners, when you ask them a question, they freaking answer.
Yes, we sent out an email yesterday asking questions about your personal experiences with mentor-mentees.
Yep.
And we have more information than we could ever read, ever.
I mean, it was nearly 100 responses.
Mm-hmm.
I think we managed to read them all. You read half and I read half.
We read them and then condensed them. But, we were like, wait a second, we could probably do this episode.
For like the 3-parter.
But it was helpful to have outsider insight.
Look, there are common themes and we'll get to that. Let me first start by saying the questions we asked our listeners were, do you have a mentor? Do you or did you? So depending on where you are in your career, do you or did you? How did you find them? Do you or did you have a mentee? Mentees, plural.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe you've had more than one over time. Maybe you have more than one at once. And how did you like those experiences? What are some tips for good mentee behavior?
Mm-hmm.
I also learned from reading these that maybe we should have asked for tips for good mentor behavior.
As well.
The behavior is important on both ends.
Absolutely.
Okay, but let's put a pin in that.
Yeah.
We'll come back around to it.
Should we share each of our stories?
I think you should tell your story.
Oh.
You want me to do mine?
Well, if you have listened to the first 3 episodes of Hustle Humbly podcast, I sort of dive into the coffee date era of my career before children.
Yeah, you were arriving at mentor burnout, I would maybe call it.
Yes,
which
is actually a huge reason the podcast was born, because now instead of spending an hour with a new agent who's like, can you meet me for coffee and tell me how to do the best open house, I can say, actually, I have some episodes for you to listen to.
Yeah.
And you can listen to them. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Right.
And my favorite is when like a day or two later, I get a text back that's like, I just listened to those episodes and it was amazing and I have no questions.
No notes.
No questions.
No questions, no notes. Got it.
So that lets me know they were willing to put in the effort of listening to something.
It is also now allowing the podcast to be, I'm doing my air quotes, mentorship at scale, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to hear the two of us talk about so many different topics and how we do these things, you can do that.
And we were very pleased to hear that many of you considered Hustle Humbly to be your mentor,
really
which I think
sweet.
is great.
Yeah.
And it's free.
And that was the point.
Yeah.
So mission accomplished. Feeling like something might slip through the cracks in your transactions?
Not anymore. We've got you covered with the Hustle Humbly buyer and seller transaction checklist.
They walk you through every step from pre-listing or pre-offer all the way to post-closing.
These checklists can be used however you need. Uploaded to your CRM, a transaction management software, your Trello, or even handed to an office admin or your assistant.
So you stay organized, deliver consistent service, and never miss a beat.
Whether you're brand new or a seasoned pro, these checklists help you work smarter, not harder.
Get yours at hustlehumblypodcast.com/checklist to run your business with confidence and ease.
But what I found was, so I think the reason I had so many people reach out is that in 2011, when I was licensed and I was in my early 20s and I was single, there was not a lot of young people within the industry.
Right. You were an anomaly.
Yes, at that time, age-wise. And then as I got awards and the board likes to publicize the awards.
You were visible.
Alissa is our rising star. She's 22 and sold this many houses. And then it was like the phone calls of people wanting to meet me for coffee, and I had no children, and I am very social, and I love coffee.
Like, I'll go.
So I was just meeting, but I quickly realized that I was more invested in these strangers' careers than maybe they were even themselves.
Yeah.
The energy was rarely matched.
Yeah.
I certainly have a few success stories.
Sure.
But for the most part, people just didn't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
And that's when I found I needed to do something that would put a ball in their court.
Mm.
Like, build a database with 100 people in it and let me know when you do that. And then when they would reach back out again, I'd be like, oh yeah, how's that database going? Oh, okay, well, we'll meet again after.
Do that.
And I wasn't charging money. Like
Right.
I have never charged anyone to meet with me.
Yeah.
But I did ultimately get completely burned out, discouraged. And so I just sort of put it into that when Haven was born.
Yeah.
Probably should have done it way sooner.
Yeah. Well, it's hard emotionally as a mentor to give so much of yourself and then not see it even acted on a little.
Yeah.
It's just, it makes you sad.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that for you.
But then it's like the ones that did follow advice and were succeeding, it was so exciting to see
Yeah.
that. And remember, real estate is such a long game.
Right.
And people want such quick results. That's just our culture. They want everything handed to them now.
Yeah.
And a lot of them didn't really like the answers that I gave for how I got to where I was, So it was very interesting. I learned a lot. I have no regrets.
Would you say you had a mentor?
Yes, I think I had 3.
Okay.
Obviously, Connie.
Right.
Connie is my broker, and she is the one who asked me about my finances and taught me how to run it like a business.
Yeah.
And then also in my office, I had Tim D'Angelo.
Okay.
Who is just really funny. We're great friends to this day. And I actually wrote he made me cry in a Monday morning meeting one time.
Oh, that's sweet.
He
was mean?
No, I should say yes if he ever listens to this. Because every time that I meet someone new and he's there, I'm like, he made me cry once. And he's like, stop telling people that.
Oh my God.
He is, so we have our Monday morning meeting.
Yeah.
And he would lead it occasionally.
Okay.
Like if Connie was out of town. And if you show up complaining, he's going to be like, okay, great. Well, tell me, how's your database going? How many people have you reached out to? Yeah. Are they just not responsive to you? Asking questions, knowing good and well, no database work was done.
Okay.
He is very good at holding people accountable.
Okay.
The crying was not due to him. It was due to me. And I was just like, I don't know. I'm just not good at this.
Oh my gosh.
This was, it took me 5 months to have my first transaction in real estate.
I just can't do this.
And I was on the edge, but he really is good at asking the right questions. He's good at accountability.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's an important feature in your mentor.
Yeah. And to this day, if you're somebody that shows up and puts in the effort, he will help you for hours and hours and hours.
And not get paid.
This is just being friendly.
Right.
No official program here in my office.
So he was your second.
Yeah. And then I had Jeffrey Welsh, who is with another company and sort of took me under his wing from a leadership standpoint.
I see.
Wanted me to be a leader within the industry, not just chasing client to client, deal to deal, but to actually want to make the industry better, want to make the industry more professional. He, I think, is a big reason I learned to make relationships outside of my office with so many other offices.
How did you meet him? Just through a transaction? We don't know.
I think that he came up to me after I had gotten an award. Okay. Like a rising star type of award, like a new agent award.
Yeah.
And was like, we need some young blood within the board. Would love to have you serve. And then we just started meeting for coffee pretty regularly. But he was mentoring me, if you will.
So that's 3 mentors. Yeah. I would have thought you were going to also say Anne.
So Anne I have an amazing story about Anne. But I didn't work under her or go to her for advice.
Okay.
Not for any reason, only...
She was very busy.
She's very busy, and I had other resources.
Okay, so you just had an experience, a mentory experience.
I did have a mentory experience. She was not a
consistent. Got it. Yeah. Okay. I had one mentor.
Okay.
My broker, who was at the smaller firm when I left the bigger firm. So after 3 months, this isn't going well. I think I want to quit. I see my previous personal agent out in the wild. He's like, come to our office. It's very small. You can follow the broker around. It's great. She took me everywhere in her car, but I showed up to the office every morning by 9, and wherever her appointments were taking her, she would say, do you want to get in the car? And I would be like, yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just shadowed everything she did. She did not call me the day before and be like, you have to be here at this time. I took myself to the office every day, and then I could shadow her.
Yeah, then you figured out what your day looked like.
She was there.
Yes.
So that was my mentor. And then we've heard your mentee story. You never had one mentee that was like,
I've had a few like close friends that were within my office where they would call me a lot.
Yeah.
But it was never, are we official?
We're not like we're just in a situationship.
Right.
A
right.
A
it was
mentor
never like,
situationship?
will you be my mentor? There was never a formal ask.
Sure.
But it certainly happened.
Okay.
And then as far as mentor-mentee, I kind of, if I know that there was someone that I've been helping a lot and I found myself in a bind on a weekend, I would call that person
like, hey,
I've been helping and being like, look, I need this house shown and I cannot get there. Can you? And I expect it to be reciprocated.
Right, because you were not being paid for your time.
And it always was. Like anytime I ever needed help, I would call the person I have been helping the most at that time.
That makes sense.
And we just sort of reciprocated.
Okay, but these were informal relationships.
Yeah. Now, my current assistant, Ellie, she's very young. I forget that I'm not 20 anymore.
Right.
But I think when she came to my office, she was 20 or 21. Yeah. But brand new. She has so much energy.
Right.
She's, doesn't have children. She's just eager to do whatever with real estate.
Okay.
And I was mentoring her and then thought, I really do need an assistant. But what's nice is when I went to Ellie about being my assistant, and this is just paperwork background stuff. She does not see clients. I don't give her, access to my clients. My clients don't even know I have an assistant, really.
Yeah.
But it was basically like minimal pay, very minimal.
Yeah.
However, I'm still mentoring you. I'm still here for you. And I will give you any random leads that come in from a sign call or the internet, if somebody inquires. Yeah. And it has, we're going on 2 years. And it's worked out really well.
Okay, good. Mm-hmm. I only have really one person that I would consider a mentee, accidental mentee.
Okay.
This is my accidental team. When I was at my RE/MAX office, another agent and myself shared an assistant. Okay. We interviewed assistants. We get an assistant. She was working, 10 to 20 hours a week while she finished college. It was great. After she was a great assistant after seeing us, do our thing and finishing up her degree, which was in like public relations. She was like, I actually think, people keep telling me to give this a try. I've seen y'all do it. I'm going to get my license, right? So then she became an agent. The nice thing about this is she already saw how hard it was.
Yes.
So it wasn't like she became an agent like with rose-colored glasses. She saw.
She knew.
She knew what we were doing. So with pretty good knowledge of what's happening, she gets her license and becomes our buyer's agent. And then I would say it was a pretty formal mentor-mentee relationship, but she had 2 mentors because there was 2 agents who
were using her as an assistant.
Right. And now she's like our buyer's agent. So she sent me a nice message because I was like, hey, we're going to talk about mentees, mentor-mentees. Do you want to say anything about this experience?
Oh.
So she said, I'm super appreciative for the time I had with you and Summer and for the time y'all gave me. I know without a doubt that I would not be as successful as I am today. And y'all, she's very successful.
She is.
She's at a different brokerage now, but she's great. Without your guidance, you demanded a high level of professionalism right out of the gate. So I had no choice but to approach my business as if I were a 10-year veteran. Because at that point in time, we had both been in the business that long. I liked that I had 2 of you to go to for advice because you handle situations differently. I learned how to become more confrontational. I feel like I'm not that at all, but certain situations require you to be. Being able to shadow you was instrumental in terms of day-to-day, but also listening in to crazy stories and gaining knowledge of how to handle situations. Overall, I feel like I am the melting pot of the 2 of you, and I am indebted to both of you for my career. But the point is, like, she was seeing what we're doing. She's listening to what we're doing. She's like able to come to two people and get, there's not one way to sell real estate.
Correct.
So sometimes you're comfortable with something and sometimes you're not. And maybe you do need to be pushed out of your comfort zone, or maybe you take the advice of the person who you're like, yeah, that feels natural for me. So that is sweet Rebecca. And she was a delightful mentee and was fully successful. So I'd say I'm 1 for 1.
Yeah.
I don't have any mentees now.
I had to laugh.
You're all the mentees now.
Yes, y'all are our mentees, and we love it. And then I also was just thinking, like, do I have a mentor now? And I do remember in year like 2017, 2018, 2019, wishing I could find a solo agent that did the volume I had, but it was going to have to be outside of our marketplace, and I never really found someone per se. But lately here, like Kim LaFleur from Lafayette, she's in another market, and she's actually a team leader, but we met through serving at the board. And that is what sort of helped me meet agents outside of my marketplace.
Yeah.
And who have a higher volume, even simply because of price point or whatever it may be. But it's nice because we could go 2 months without talking, and then she'll randomly send me like a 2-minute voice note about a situation.
Yeah.
And then I can respond. And then I'll do the same, vice versa.
Yeah.
And then also it was funny because before I came here to record today, I was at my office and I was like, I was talking to my secretary, Anne, at the front desk. I was like, Anne, is Katy's sign here? And Katy and Anne was like, yeah, I put her sign in lockbox over here. And I was grabbing it and I was like thinking to myself as I was preparing for this mentor-mentee episode that like, I have talked to you more than I have talked to anybody
about real estate.
About real estate.
For sure.
In the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And how much we have worked through. So I don't schedule appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Right.
But I am certain days worse than others. But I am checking email and
we are
handling
navigating.
things. We are. And there has been so many times where I've been like, Katy, I need your words. How do I say this? What would you do?
That's a really interesting point when you put it in perspective of a mentor, like, because you're further along in your career. We both are. I'm at 20 years almost, and you're like, 14? So when you get further in your career, it's a different type of mentor you need. And I think that is also sometimes simply fulfilled by like that mastermind vibe.
Yeah.
Like it's a group of peers
who are all experienced,
that have different situations they've been through. So you're able to like call on any of them. It's not like one of them. I don't know that I would have to go seek out someone that was, oh, you're further along than me, or you do more than me. It's more like, help me figure out the nuance of this transaction.
Yes.
Or like, are you seeing this in your career right now? Well, okay, this is what's happening for me in the market. I think that we start to crowdsource a little bit.
Sure.
When we get to that point. So you don't necessarily need like the singular. But I mean, even when I was still at Remax, I would go to my broker lots.
Yeah.
And it was also very interesting to me to read who was their mentor and how did they find them from our people who responded. A lot less than I would have thought people said it was their broker.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the like number one way to get a mentor.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
well, we have that as one of our topics we wanted to talk about today. Was like,
are you
how
ready?
Are mentors found?
Okay. How to find one.
How to find a mentor. What do you think?
Well, I think, first of all, you need to figure out who is the leadership in your office. Or if you're picking an office, who is the leadership there? So is it the broker? Are they going to be available to answer your questions? Then you probably want to interview them and see if you like their style.
I think it's very important to be very honest with yourself and your personality. And I guess needy isn't the right word. Like, how needy am I?
Yeah.
Right? But I think you do need to rate yourself on like a scale of 1 to 10.
What is my support level required?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important when you're choosing a brokerage.
Yeah.
Now that I'm where I'm at, but I've kind of been this way my whole career. Connie's like, when you call, I answer. Because
it's got to be serious.
Because you don't call often.
Right. Because you can navigate most things on your own.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think your leadership in your office is important. And then I would just go to like, who are the senior agents? Whether it's in your office, in your market, it's someone you just find online that's further along than you. Those are probably good sources of ways to find a mentor, someone you met through a common group, like a real estate group.
Mm-hmm.
But you always want to make sure it's someone that's at least a little further along than you.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you do find you're one of those people that requires more support, being in an office that has the senior agents is good because you can ask those questions and have that wisdom and bounce ideas off of them. But you probably also need to be in an office with some newer agents that you could say, hey, could I pay you $20 to go show this house for me if you can't get there?
Yeah.
I have utilized, I think within my own, that's kind of what my office is like.
Mhm.
It's a bigger office. So we have seasoned agents, we have new agents and everything in between. And it's kind of like, we help them, they help us. It just keeps going around and round.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Do you have the breakdown of what our friends said is how they found theirs?
Yeah, so the top answers for how people found their mentors was one, through brokerage mentorship programs.
Yeah, and a lot of them that were required.
Yeah.
Like you're required to do this mentorship program.
I've never been at a brokerage that had that.
Me neither. And I think some of these were like saying you're required to do it for 3 transactions, however long that takes.
Good.
Yeah, sort of like an
That's a
apprenticeship.
good idea.
Yeah.
Because I dropped my pen.
Oh, it's all right. You can get it.
I think that the first 3 transactions could take you 3 months,
6 months,
or it could take you a year.
Could take a year.
How are you doing?
It really depends. Okay, so people were saying they were maybe assigned a mentor through their brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
What is the next one?
Like a family member or personal connection.
I was shocked by how many family member mentors there were.
So many.
So many. And it was good. Most of them were all positive.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
And then the last one was just organic relationships within the office. And that happened with them, the agent going to the senior agents and offering to help.
Yeah.
Being present at sales meetings, showing up, showing your face, just being present allowed them to build those connections.
Okay, great. One person actually, this is a quote from one of our friends. How did they find their mentor? I was always in the office and always answered my phone when called. They asked for my help for open houses and just random appointments, and it just sort of developed from there.
Mm-hmm.
So like it happened sort of naturally. There's another one that I have to find because it is cracking me up. Okay. Do you have a mentor? Yes, I had to with my brokerage. How did you find them? Assigned to me? It was awful.
my mentor was assigned to me and it was awful. Awful.
Yeah.
Cool.
No good. They said it actually encouraged me to switch brokerages, and I just became a mentor because I wanted to make it a more positive experience for others.
Oh, wow.
So like theirs was so bad that later on, but this is how they describe their mentor assigned to them. Just awful. Just picture me being professional and meeting my mentor, and my mentor rolling up late in a big truck with a crazy license plate. And I let out a big sigh. And then they used us as I guess there was multiple mentees, as their assistants, and really didn't learn anything.
Oh, no, just being used as
Just
a mentee.
being used.
That's not good.
A mentee is not your assistant.
No, unless you decide to have that formal conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, uh-huh.
I'm not loving that.
No.
Okay, so that's about it on how to find one.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready to tell me what we found to be some of the common takeaways from our friends?
Yeah. You want to talk about some of the value that we have?
Please.
So a lot of the people that wrote into us feel like the reason they made it through their first year was because they had a support system or someone to go to.
So many.
And also many of them said, it was more being able to call per situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a situation, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is also maybe a good time to talk about etiquette.
Let's do that.
I was just in a big CE class.
Okay.
And I was sitting next to a broker.
Okay.
And somebody called me and I messaged and was like, hey, I'm in this conference. And then they texted me this like long text of like what their problem was.
Okay.
So I took the time, despite being in the CE, to respond. 5 minutes later, broker next to me, phone rings. It's that person. Same person. And I was like, that's interesting. And then broker texted back and said, hey, I'm da-da-da-da. And she basically copy and pasted the same text she had sent me. And I thought to myself, I just took the time to answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
And that I see that a lot in the new agent mentee. At some point, you have to learn to make decisions. You can't ask 5 different people the same exact question.
You're going to get 5, albeit sometimes slightly different answers. They may not be drastically different, but now you've got to grapple with, who do I go with? That's too much information.
Yeah.
That's taking too much time. And you're right, it's not respectful of the other. Like, if you ask 5 people and you only take the advice from one, the other 4 people, that was relatively disrespectful of their time, their opinion. Like, well, and it's fine if you're like, you get an answer, they're like, I'm not sure I understand or believe, or that doesn't make sense to me, if you have to get a second opinion. But 5 opinions?
Right.
Too many opinions.
And then it let me know if that person reaches out to me in the future, I don't need to feel the need to respond quickly because I'm one of 5.
You're just on
They're just going to go to the next.
list.
Yeah, they're just going to keep asking. So I think it's important. Nothing drives me more nuts than hearing a new agent go from office to office to office to office within my office asking the same question of everybody. I'm like, you have wasted your whole day.
And all the people's time when you didn't stop at person 1.
Yeah.
Look, it is totally fine. If you are having a situation that is so off the wall that you need to ask multiple people, but you don't have to ask multiple people to help you with a black and white issue.
Correct.
What type of form do I use for this?
Yeah.
How would you handle, it seems a little bit, because it's the lack of confidence just really seeping out.
Yes.
Right? Like, oh, I'm not confident in myself, and now I'm not sure that I asked the right people, so I better just keep asking because I don't want to take action, because I don't want to make a choice.
Yeah, because they're just too nervous. So I like that some of the themes that came up is mentors give practical advice, but also emotional support.
Yeah.
And I think the emotional support is where mentors get a little bit abused.
Yeah.
Is that they just want us to comfort them, tell them what to do, guide them, direct them. And it's like at some point you just have to be confident enough to take the next step forward, whatever that looks like.
For sure.
And being mindful of how respectful you are of other people's time is important.
Yeah.
Or pretty soon nobody's going to be answering your phone calls.
Yeah. What are the other tips for the
that
mentees?
Also being mindful of business hours.
Yeah.
What is it? Poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part.
Yeah.
If it's something, nothing drives me more nuts than an agent who I never see in the office, never comes to classes.
Yeah.
Calls on a Saturday night. Oh my gosh. And let me tell you, 9 out of 10 times, it's not a big deal at all. It's the smallest little thing. But it's like, if you have been showing up and you're trying, my heart is way more open to helping you.
Yeah.
Than you just call me every time you have a quote unquote crisis.
Well, even then you're willing to help, but boundaries and professionalism are important, especially in an agent to agent relationship.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be thoughtful of how we would like to be treated, vice versa.
Now, sitting next to my broker in that conference, that was one of about 20 calls. Her phone
never stopped.
Rang.
But that is her job.
It is her job. Yeah. But it let me know I don't want to be a broker.
No, right. Well, we've already established this.
It's a lot. It was a lot. And just to see questions that were coming through.
Yeah.
It's a big job. And so I think also as agents, mentors need to be mindful of how many you take on, how available you make yourself.
You can't have an unlimited, because it should be a relationship where you can be made available and you have the bandwidth for it. That is something that came up a lot. I was like, there are a lot of people out here who was one of many for their mentor. Like, they were a mentee number 10.
Sure. That's
a lot of mentees.
Yeah.
And it's one thing if it's the broker and that's their only job, but if it is another practicing agent, how are you gonna have time for that?
But even if it is your broker, being able to say, this question can wait till tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
This question can wait until business hours.
Yeah.
The more respectful you are of your mentor, the more they are going to be willing to help. The last thing you want is for your name to pop up in their phone and them go, Here we go again.
I don't know.
Like, what? What is it?
I've definitely answered the same question multiple times from the same person.
Yeah.
Like informally, not anyone who was like attached to me. But I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, didn't we already talk about this?
Yeah. Having a hard time.
I mean, it feels like I have kids. I know what that, like when someone asks you the same question over and over again, it's like, did you not hear me the first time?
Yeah.
We did get really great tips for mentees from one specific responder.
Okay.
Are you ready for their list?
Mhm.
For tips for the mentee, show up,
Wow. Be at the office.
do the work,
Mm-hmm.
ask when you can follow shadow. Ask. Don't expect your mentor to seek you out and tell you where they are going to be every minute of every day. You need to ask when you can follow or shadow. Research. Learn your contract. Basically, learn your basics.
Mm-hmm.
Please do not go to your mentor with super, super basic questions. Ask questions, but use common sense.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Take classes. Like your mentor is not the only person responsible for your education. You
Absolutely
take
not.
control of that.
I had actually written that down because the board that you are a part of, the amount of free classes, free MLS classes that teach you
So
how to use
many.
everything, especially when it comes to technology, there are free tutorials out there.
For everything.
You don't need to have a human being sit down and hold your hand and teach you how to do it when there are resources out there.
100%. Their last tip for the mentee. Listen to Hustle Humbly, specifically what to do when you're new or slow.
Oh, that's a good episode.
They had a special episode. But yeah, look, one person said, I had a mentee FaceTime me to ask where the button was to print a hot sheet of listings.
Oh, my dear.
Like that is a tech question. I'm not the tech. Your mentor is not the tech department.
Yeah.
There is literally a help button on every MLS. There is literally a tech department, usually for your board. Like that is not your mentor's problem.
Right.
And one other one said, like, if they don't know how to log into everything, that's not what your mentor is for.
Mm-mm.
And please don't come back and ask me that a second time. So if I was nice and showed you where the button was, and then you came back and asked me for the button again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really not good.
I have a success story about showing up.
Okay.
So, in the beginning, I basically lived on phone duty because I
Mhm.
thought, one, it'll make me get to the office. Two, if the phone rings, awesome. If it doesn't, I got a lot of work done.
Yeah.
So I just lived on phone duty. We had an agent in our office who was switching brokerages, and it was
Okay.
a little bit of a tumultuous thing, but she had about 5 sellers that were given the option to go with her to her new brokerage or not, and 5 said no, that they were going to stay with our brokerage.
All 5?
It was like 5 of 8. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh my God.
So and they weren't the best listings in the world.
Okay.
But Connie was walking around, saw me sitting in a cubicle and was like, Alissa, would you like 5 listings? What? Like I had like 2 at that point in my career. I remember feeling so excited.
You're like, I just won the real estate lottery.
Yes. And I was like making a graph and organizing everything. And I thought, what if somebody else had been sitting here?
They would have maybe gotten those 5 listings.
I really do think she was walking around
She's
looking
like-
to see who's here, who shows up.
Yeah, she's like, I just need someone to handle this right now.
Yeah, I think I ended up actually listing 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they closed and went well. But I mean, if you're not showing up, you're never going to be top of mind.
No, for sure not.
Are you ready to create and grow a thriving database to support your business for years to come?
We're here to make that easy and effective for you with the Build Your Own Business 101 course.
Learn how to love your people with this proven step-by-step process that guarantees you'll stay top of mind with your database and be the place they go with repeat and referral business.
We will help you fill up your database using our Who Do You Know list and give you the tips and mindset shifts for reaching out without overthinking it.
And you'll get 21 of our favorite prospecting templates, giving you the exact words to say when you contact your people. Get it all at hustlehumblypodcast.com/BYOB. That's hustlehumblypodcast.com/BYOB.
I think that the vice versa of that is the mentor tips are the same. if you're not able to be available, if you're not showing up, if you're not present in your office or in that agent's life, then you have to let it go. Now, I kind of got the vibe from these answers that especially in the offices where mentorship is required, or like you have to have a mentor for your first 3 transactions, that mentor was then getting paid a lot of times, like a percentage or something to babysit you, if you will.
Yeah.
And then I felt like a lot of times people were assigned. They didn't get to interview and see if it was a good vibe. Like, you can't just learn from anyone. We need people have learning styles. They
gosh.
What?
Now, speaking of you should interview and like learn your style, I'm going to share
you have a good one?
Yeah, one of our listeners sent us a good story.
Okay, let's hear it.
She said, first of all, I asked a couple of top producing female agents in my office to mentor me.
Okay.
But I was turned down.
Oh.
Which honestly, when I read that, I thought good for them.
Yeah, right.
You know, like they weren't at capacity to do that. So I asked my broker to connect me with a female mentor. To my surprise, she assigned me to a man who looked like he was straight out of GQ.
Oh.
Walter.
Oh, Walter.
Walter is the most patient, intelligent, experienced agent. And I have been so lucky to have him as my mentor. He's a wonderful parent. I love that she's like, he parented me. He did babysit me.
Oh my God.
But she said, I still work with Walter as a business partner now. I like it because it gets so lonely working solo. I feel so much less stressed when issues arise, knowing that I can call him to talk things out.
Okay. He reduces her stress.
Yeah.
He really is a good parent.
Very good parent.
Oh, that's a sweet story.
Yeah, she said, my main focus is what's best for my clients. In the beginning, I liked that I could learn from Walter without compromising the service my clients would receive.
Okay, I love that.
So, yeah, it's just, you never know who might be the right fit for you.
No doubt.
It may surprise you, and you may need to switch it up every now and then.
Yeah. Some other tips for mentoring was to have a mentor who has experience. I don't think 1-2 years in the business you should be mentoring just because you know what the contract says. Maybe 5+.
Yeah.
It feels weird when it's super early on, and then naturally likes to teach.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want to teach, I don't think that that's for you. And just because your broker approaches you and says everyone must participate in the mentorship program, you can say, I don't think I'd be a good fit to mentor. I don't want to teach other people.
Somebody used the term voluntold.
Oh, they sure did.
I was voluntold to be a mentor. Yeah.
This person said, if there's a regular meeting, the mentee should do the homework and come prepared.
Yeah.
It should be a joy to meet with the person rather than a drag. Like it should be because a lot of the people in our responses ended up becoming very close friends with their mentor or mentee. Yeah. So it should be a positive experience. Even, I mean, hopefully you get to pick and you're not just assigned someone that's not a fit for you. But these people became very close.
Yeah.
I mean, this one said she was required to complete her first 3 transactions with her mentor. To this day, 20 years later, I don't think I would have made it as a realtor had I not had her help to get things rolling. I thought it was so sweet.
That is sweet. One of them was saying that they have mentored a lot of people. It sounds like there was a program involved here. But she said, I found the reason most agents fail is because they want the work handed to them.
Yeah.
They think it's a hobby or they don't show up. Of all my mentors, 2 mentees really stand out that put in the work and went on to be very successful full-time agents. They put in the work, they shadowed, they studied, they researched, and they showed up. And like those are the success stories that keep people
There were
going.
quite a few in there where they said, I could tell. I've had a lot of failures in the mentee department, but I can tell when someone shows up if they're going to be good because they do the work. This person said that where she struggled mentoring agents who ultimately wanted to grow and leave the team. So a lot of these were like, well, if I'm required or I'm mentoring them as part of a team structure, then it felt like they were wasting their time because then they would leave. It said, I also think mentoring brand new agents can be challenging. It tends to work better when someone has already tried to navigate the business on their own and can truly value the systems, experience, and mentorship you provide.
Yeah.
Like if they've already been out there flailing and they're like, oh, I just wish someone would help me. And then they get someone who will help them. Then all of a sudden you're like, this is very valuable. If you're just forced into it as part of you work in this office, you must have this mentor, I can see how that would fail a lot.
I also think that on the emotional side of mentorship, that's very hard to measure because there's nothing concrete.
I know.
We could all talk about our feelings forever, right? At
Mhm.
some point we have to be like, okay, that's enough. We need to get to work. And one of the most successful things was being able to give a mentee a practical step.
Yeah.
Like if I could say, once you have 100 or 50 people in your spreadsheet, come back to me and we'll talk about
Yeah.
what will be the next
It's a
step.
very black and white.
Yes.
Have you done X?
I prefer practical steps.
Yeah, I think that's good.
So that you can measure, because a lot of our listeners who wrote in also felt like when they were the mentor,
Mm-hmm.
the mentee would also like to blame them. Like, well,
Yeah.
I didn't do well my first year and you were my mentor. And it's like, that's not a good feeling.
No, that's
you know?
really bad.
So being able to say, well, I asked you to do your spreadsheet. Did you ever get 50 people on there?
You're like,
Ever?
no, like that has nothing to do with me.
Did that ever happen? I don't think it did.
Yeah, they would have cried in that meeting.
Yes. They would have.
You're like,
They
I don't
would
think I didn't do it.
My Tim is showing.
Okay, this kind person said, when I got my real estate license in 2019, an acquaintance offered to mentor me at the brokerage that I signed on with. I was excited and hopeful until things quickly went sideways.
Oh, no.
I know, unfortunate. Shortly after I joined, she experienced a personal loss and understandably became unavailable. Okay, so that's fair.
Happens.
Around the same time, I landed my first listing appointment and I was representing the same clients on the buy side too. I had no idea what I was doing.
gosh.
Imagine Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights. Yep, that was me.
That was me.
This is me, like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, I don't know. She said, unfortunately, I couldn't get in touch with my mentor and she never took me out to shadow her. I felt lost. The brokerage ended up putting me in their locker room, in air quotes, I don't know.
Locker room.
Coaching. But when I asked for a different mentor, I was told to just pay for coaching instead. I have some real problems with a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like, look, every brokerage is allowed to run however they want, but you also don't have to work at that brokerage.
Correct.
If someone told me that I was required to pay for coaching, that would be a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Like, that's a choice for me and my business.
And there's free coaching, like listening to a podcast. You know, I mean,
Go to YouTube.
there are free resources
Take
out
a class
there.
at your board. Like,
Yeah.
you can't but I'm like, well, I mean, I just don't know that I would be around for that. But I felt bad for her and her Ricky Bobby moment at her
Yeah.
listing where she was like, I don't know what to do.
Oops.
But there was a lot of that too.
Mm-hmm. This one, this agent enjoyed being a mentor,
Mhm.
but also had to figure out boundaries. So she started something called Workshop Wednesday.
Oh, I like that.
So on Wednesdays, if you had a
Uh-huh.
question, you were welcome to come into her office
Okay.
within a certain time. And she was like, I had new agents come in. I had seasoned agents come in. I had people coming in asking for help on DocuSign. I had agents come in so that we could bounce marketing ideas off of each other.
This sounds fun.
I know. I was
would
like,
want to hold Workshop Wednesday.
I know. It does
That
sound
sounds
fun.
so
and
fun.
and it's nice because she didn't have guilt of, like, for example, back in the day, we would have our Wednesday sales meeting followed by the office tour
Yeah.
where we would caravan and tour the new listings.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was like, where are we going for lunch? And then we would have this long lunch. And then it was time to go to carpool.
Yeah.
And no work was being done.
No.
And so it was like a whole day wasted because when everybody's at the office, you want to talk.
It's like a fun party.
Yes, it's a fun party.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to really tell myself, Alissa, you can do that, but it has to be a day that you have already handled everything.
Yeah.
So if Tuesday night or Wednesday morning early before sales meeting, you need to clear out email and respond to clients so that you can go do this.
Yeah.
But setting a time frame of this is when I do this
Yeah.
is, I think, so smart.
Very smart. Do you want to hear a story of the family dynamic in a mentor-mentee?
Yeah.
Okay, so this sweet agent has been licensed 7 years and had a mentor, her dad.
Oh, she's mentoring her dad?
No, dad mentored her.
Oh, cute.
But he gets very distracted and starts talking about vacation or where he went to dinner the night before or the grandkids, and he forgets we're working, LOL.
Like Dad.
Dad, back, bring it back. He always has great advice in difficult times because he's been through them all. Clients screaming at you, sellers dying in the middle of a transaction, issues related to financing or title. The biggest challenge has been the age gap, which I thought was interesting, and the different views on work-life balance, routines, and systems. But we make it work, and he has helped me grow in business and figure out what I want out of this career.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah. Like, there is going to be some generational difference if you find an agent who's 10, 20 years older than you, who does have the experience, but maybe they use different systems than you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting point they brought up.
Yeah. This agent wrote in a story and she said, I remember my first day in the office, I felt like a deer in headlights. I did not know what to do. I was at a loss. My mentor, who I didn't know at the time, walked over to me, handed me a big, huge box of note cards and said, start writing. She set a goal for me with how many cards I needed to write per week. 7 years later, I am still writing note cards.
Oh, I bet she does great with that.
Yes, like she just needed that's the thing too.
Give us a task.
Katy and I just went to a conference and it was a very good conference. Amazing speakers.
Yes,
We noticed that a lot of conferences in general are very motivating, inspiring.
You can do it.
You can do it, but do what?
Tell me what to do.
Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I think that is where the gray area happens between mentor-mentee.
Yeah.
Is that we're not here to keep you excited.
Yeah.
We're here to keep you on track.
Yeah.
With practical tasks.
We had kind of a moment of panic there. We were like, is our presentation wrong for
yeah, maybe
what have we done?
Yes.
I don't think we're supposed to be here. You were like, do we add something? Like, no,
this is
we're not adding anything. This is what we're doing. But I said, I think the key here is that we are not motivational speakers.
No.
We are educational speakers.
Yes.
So we are just like, here's some practical advice.
Yeah, we can
This is what we're talking about.
How to do actual things.
Yeah.
But we probably aren't the best at, rah, rah.
Right.
You can.
No, that's not it. No. This person said their mentors have come through family, friends, my brokerage, and even podcasts. So see, all good place to find your mentor.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one that I did think, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I've mentored several agents in the past. However, I've moved away from formal, contractually obligated mentorships as I found it difficult to manage the expectation of being available at all hours.
And you should never have the expectation of being available at all hours.
I don't love that.
Like, no, we are not emergency room doctors on call.
Yeah. Same person said, in my experience with formal mentees, I often found that many didn't dedicate the necessary time, didn't follow advice, and seemed to expect success without putting in the effort. There was a tendency to look for quick fixes and blame external factors when things didn't go as planned. Ultimately, they're looking for the secret, air quotes. But the reality is that success in this business comes down to hard work, consistency, and developing your own unique approach.
Yeah, that takes time.
That's like all true. All true.
Yeah, some of the most common challenges listed as a mentor was having agents under them who were unmotivated or part-time. If they had another job, they were usually calling after hours or on the weekends for help. And it's like, I'm done working right now. I'm with my family. Yeah, so that was sort of a hard thing.
But I will say, I think what I got as an underlying thread here in some, if not a majority of brokerages, the broker has instituted a mentorship program to basically be able to not be available.
Yeah.
And get these other agents who are already trying to navigate being available all the time for their clients.
Yeah.
Now they got to be available all the time for another agent. I thought it was it's a little sketchy, to be honest.
I know.
I'm like, I love the idea of a mentor-mentee. I do not love the idea of it being a replacement for the job that your broker should be doing.
The broker should be the first phone call in a time of contract distress.
That is not your mentor's problem.
No.
It is fine if your mentor is helping you understand the process, but if you are in exactly those words, a moment of contractual distress, broker.
Got to be your broker. The other things were just lack of accountability, lack of follow through. I always said you can't have a what do they call it when it's like, do you want to be my accountability partner?
Yeah.
But then you get together and you're like, did you do the homework? No. Did you? Me either. Like,
that doesn't work.
That's not going to be a good relationship.
No.
So making sure that accountability is there. Time management versus compensation structure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never had anyone pay me
Yeah.
to help them out. There are some I should have.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think you just have to be mindful of that. And that if you want to be a professional mentor within your office, maybe there should be some compensation.
It's adding some layers. If you're giving of your time so freely, I feel like compensation is not crazy. But also then, is your mentee going to resent you for taking, I'm doing my air quotes again, part of their commission? If your mentee is being forced to do this and forced to give you part of their commission, I can see how that would become a very contentious relationship.
Yeah, which
I don't love it.
The whole point.
Yeah, I like the people better who were like, it was so positive, we became friends after, but I don't think those people were forced.
No.
I think there's a real...
They were not voluntold.
They were not. How about this one, where she interviewed with her mother-in-law's brokerage as well, and was told they do not work with new agents, but because I have a relative there, they're willing to take me. It would have cost me, wait for this, you're going to die, $800 for my mother-in-law to be my mentor.
What? Through the program?
She said, not in my budget.
Not in my budget. Shucks.
So she went somewhere else. She did not go there. She did get a mentor where she went. Good news. She said, I was glued to her hip for the first 2 to 3 months of starting in real estate. You might not want to be glued to your mother-in-law's hip for 2 to 3 months. Anywho's. I went to appointments with her, helped stage homes. She hosted my first open house with me. I learned how to load listings into the MLS, fill out docs properly, etc. I wouldn't have known where to start without her. I was able to generate new business, take on referrals, and close 3 transactions, plus take on my first listing in my first 10 months. I would not have been as successful without her guidance.
Yeah.
But she also was like, I will not be paying my mother-in-law $800.
$800, not happening.
Mentor important, but if it's not in my budget, it's not in my budget.
Someone wrote in that they want a mentor, even though they're a little bit of a seasoned agent.
Oh, I love this.
And I thought this was smart, too, when thinking about what you need in a mentor. So she's had mentors before, but she's always been very buyer heavy.
Okay.
Now that she's a few years in the business, she's becoming very listing heavy. And she wants a mentor that is a go-to listing agent.
I love that idea.
Like how
Like a
wide?
specialist. Yeah.
Yes, a specialist in something that you are trying to focus or learn from right now. And she said, I just think that they need to be like-minded and like-hearted and run the business the way I do.
Yeah.
Just because someone is listing heavy, you may want to ask, are they super techie? Are you not? Do you want to be super techie?
Right.
If you don't, that's not the right mentor for you.
Yeah.
So really asking yourself what you're looking for, what areas. I just think the coaching aspect of all of the real estate stuff has gotten so far gone and expensive when there's so many good, helpful agents. Maybe you just need to be in the right brokerage.
Yeah, I know. It's really very sad when we've turned new agents into a business opportunity. I don't know. I just don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. How about this one? This person's mentor found them. She said she found me. After burning herself out in 2020, 40 years in the business, she said, never again. She asked me to join the agency she was at and promised to mentor me. 3 years later, we co-list everything. I take the lead and she's there for questions and advice. It's the perfect setup. I gain experience and exposure on every listing and she keeps her business going without burning herself out. Total win-win for both of us. If it weren't for my mentor, I would have quit before my first year was over. Being a new agent is so tough, especially at 21 years old.
Wow.
So I love that this is a 21-year-old who, let's just at the very least say that their mentor was 60 plus.
At least, yeah.
Right? So they were like, I'm ready to retire. I can't handle all of this anymore. We'll just co-list. I don't need I get my peace of mind. I don't have to give away my business. The mentee is thrilled.
Yeah.
Look at all these listings I'm co-listed on.
I think that she made such a good point that this has to be a win-win.
Yeah.
The ones that have stuck around and lasted the longest with me, like Ellie, is because I get as much from her as she gets from me. And it's mutual. Some of our agents were like, it's so helpful because my relationship with my mentor is very collaborative. When she goes out of town, I help her. When I go out of town, she helps me.
Mhm.
So it is a win-win, and it's a big deal. She said, in fact, I even asked, should we be a team? Do you want to be a team? And they were like, no, you don't need me.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job. Why would we be a team?
Right.
And I thought that's just some good, honest feedback.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
making sure that it's not just, what can you give me, and how are you going to change my career?
Mhm.
Mm.
I like this one. Had 2 wonderful mentors that were not assigned or received any payment from helping me. They were older women in the industry and treated me like their own daughter.
Aw.
They are the reason I am meticulous and have done so well so far. I probably would have quit had it not been for them being so encouraging. Both are now retired and still send me referrals and encouraging messages.
Aw.
I think that's
sweet.
so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, my mentor says she is benefiting from being a mentor because it's keeping her on her toes and she is learning a lot from mentoring me.
I feel that way about the podcast.
For sure.
Because we have this platform, it's like, I need to keep my systems extra clean, extra tidy, inbox looking good, like making sure that I'm practicing what I preach. But it also does keep me sharp because we're just always problem solving and thinking about episodes.
100%. This mentee said before her mentor's guidance, I often fell into shiny object syndrome and lost
Yeah.
sight of the task that truly moved my business forward. Sometimes you need a little outside perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? The frustrating part of mentoring. We've talked about it, but I get excuses in return for why they aren't completing the weekly homework, especially the skills. Oh, here we go. This is the one I wanted to read you. Especially the skills that that have to be learned by doing it repeatedly, just doing them, and aren't something I can spoon feed a baby agent, like how to navigate the MLS, log into your resources, take trainings and webinars that will give them a head start on proficiency in technology, and the nuts and bolts of the work. I am prepared to do the hard work mentoring requires, but I'm sorry, I don't want a FaceTime call with you to show you where to click the button in the MLS.
Yeah.
It's a rare combination that I get a mentee who is committed to doing all the self-motivated, curious learning and working the framework from start. But when they do, they are off like a rocket.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So this one has been in the business 7 years, and her mentor helped her from the beginning. She found her mentor from being in the office and went around asking if any of the agents that were in the office needed help with anything.
Of course.
Running errands, MLS input, measuring rooms, making flyers. I ended up connecting with one agent in particular. A few months later, she went out of town for a month and trusted me to run her entire business.
For a whole month?
I am a solo agent, but 7 years later, I still help her out as a transaction coordinator, and I'm still able to do my own business, and I know that I could call her anytime I needed something.
I love that.
That's so sweet.
That's so nice. How about being assigned your mentor? I went through 3 mentors in 8 months.
Oh, dear.
First one, ghosted me. Second one, left to go to another brokerage. Third one, didn't do anything and called me to cry about his fiancée leaving him.
I'm sorry. Do you have any real estate questions I can help you with?
No. Look, it was the mentor that called crying.
Yeah.
And then it said, how did this affect your business? It made me tougher because I had to fight for what I needed to know, made me so much more appreciative of the broker at my current brokerage and the assistance and answers she provides. Sometimes you got to see it done wrong to get to really appreciate when it's done right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So many stories.
I'm about done.
Yeah, me too.
How about this? I love more moms. Learning from and working with my mom is invaluable. I would not know half of what I learned from her. My mom passed away a couple of years ago, and I've often wanted to run something past her to get her opinion on something that came up in a transaction. The experience and knowledge from someone in the business 40 plus years cannot be learned in a classroom. That's sweet, and her mom taught her everything.
Yeah.
Her mom actually, I want to go back to the beginning of this a little bit. She said, the first time I wrote an offer and it wasn't accepted, I cried. I cried before I called my clients. I fought back tears while explaining to my clients that our offer was not accepted. I cried later that night. I was devastated for my clients, so much so that I could not sleep. My mom, this is her sweet mom who passed away. My mom told me, there will come a time when you will not cry or lose sleep when this happens, but just remember not to get so numb to this business that you forget how your clients feel, and this is devastating to them. I always remember that when I have to deliver not so great news.
I can remember the first time I told Tanner about something devastating, like early in my career.
Mhm.
And I finished my story and he was like, wow. And I was like, what? He said, you're not like crying right now.
You didn't cry.
And I was like, I think I'm getting stronger.
Yeah.
But I was still devastated on the inside where it counts. I just wasn't,
right. Right.
losing my mind because but you know what? Why too? Because I have been doing it so long now, I've never seen it not work out
for that person
in the end.
Yeah.
Like I have been through some devastating moments, but when it finally concluded, and sometimes it took a friggin' long time,
they were happy.
It worked out. And so it's almost like the first few letdowns, you think this is devastating. And you don't have the perspective of understanding that it is going to work out. True. And that it does work out. But yeah, you get stronger. But I love how her mom told her, like, one day you're not going to cry. But even though you're not crying, you need to still feel it and care about people.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, for sure.
In conclusion
of
this episode, it really made, I've never had a formal mentor-mentee relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never had someone say, will you be my mentor? And I have never said, will you be my mentee?
We should turn this into, I don't like this though. Like, they've taken engagements and made it into like promposals.
Yes.
Like, will you be my mentee?
I actually have a funny story. It's not real estate related.
Can I hear it?
Yeah. So when me and Tanner were dating early on, I kept waiting for him to ask me to be his girlfriend.
Okay.
I was confused. I knew we were dating and we hit it off like really quickly. We met at a friend's birthday party. He got my number. He called me the next day. We went to dinner and pretty much we were dating.
Okay.
But we were about like 6 weeks in and I still wasn't sure. I'm talking to my sisters. I'm like, his Facebook still says single, and so does mine. I don't want to change it because what if he's like, whoa, you're not my girlfriend?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was in this state of limbo where I was really hoping we weren't seeing other people, but he had never formally asked me to be his girlfriend.
Okay.
So we go, he tells me about this girl that he had grown up with his whole life. And it was St. Patrick's Day, and we were going to meet her at a parade for the first time. Well, I see her and we meet each other, and she's one of these beautiful creatures that no matter what you look like that day, you're like, why am I wearing this? Why do I look this way? She's beautiful. So he's like introducing me and this and that. And then he goes to the bathroom and she immediately is like, so y'all are, official, y'all are together. And she's there with her fiancé. Like, this is not a territorial thing. This is like a sister thing.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I think so. She's like, so he's like asked you to be his girlfriend and y'all are, and I was like, well, not really. And then she sort of just cold shouldered me and was like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And like turned away. And I, a few green beers in, might I add.
Sure, St. Patrick's Day.
I'm feeling very self-conscious, very in my head. I have been wondering about this, but unable to ask him in a way that I felt comfortable.
It's also a very strange question for her to ask you on your first meeting.
I know. It was we laugh about it now because I'm actually really confused with her.
Right.
And I have told this story so many times. But it's funny because, so Tanner comes back from the bathroom and I'm visibly just like not in the same state as he left me. Like I'm just not feeling it. I'm ready to leave. I feel stupid. I'm confused. And so I was basically like, I'm ready to go. I just want to go home. So he's like, oh, okay. So we're in the car and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, not really. And I was like, am I your girlfriend or am I not your girlfriend? Because I don't know what to say when people ask if we're together. And he's like, I thought you were my girlfriend. And I'm like, well, your Facebook says single.
Oh, God.
And you never actually asked me to be your girlfriend. And I don't know if we're exclusive or what we are. But I obviously answered the question the wrong way, and now I'm embarrassed, that I'm even having this conversation with you.
What did you say?
So he's like, I can see he's like trying not to laugh at me and trying not to be like psycho. So he goes, okay, will you be my girlfriend? And I was like, no, no, this is not how I wanted you to ask that question. Stop. This is not what I wanted it to look like. No, I won't.
Not now.
And he was like, okay. So I go home. He drops me off. I'm like, bye. Next day, we were like going to meet for brunch. We go to brunch. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, but like that was a conversation that needed to be had way earlier. That is why it turned into what it turned into. And he's like, so will you be my girlfriend? And I was like, yeah.
I was really worried for a minute. I'm like, are you two still not together technically?
Yeah, he asked me to marry him, but we never dated. So I don't even know what we are. No, I'm just kidding.
My gosh, it's so funny.
I think it's important to clarify
your mentor-mentee relationships. I think that's a good idea. And maybe set some expectations and boundaries. And I think you're going to do this.
I also, obviously, mentor-mentees are not as big of a deal as dating and getting engaged and proposals. I think if you have a good office culture and everybody's helping each other and you have meetings where y'all get together and discuss topics, like I never did have a mentor-mentee designated relationship, but I had so much support that I feel like I have so many mentors. Like I really had to make myself narrow it down to the 3 that I said at the beginning.
Right. You were getting, but also I know we have a very large number of introverted listeners.
Yeah.
You are so outgoing. It is not hard for you to go up to anyone in your office and be like, hey, I have a question. And you're just like, how many people can I talk to today?
Sure.
Okay. So I can see how being able to figure out who is my assigned mentor, even if that is your broker, and just being like, hey, am I to come to you with questions? Are you okay with that? Because I'm going to feel a little self-conscious reaching out if I don't know for sure you're expecting it. And I think that's really all it has to take. And if it's not your broker, if they're like, no, that's not me, then you need to be like, who is it?
Yeah, who is my support?
I can't do this on my own.
And some brokers don't offer support. And that's okay, depending what season of life you're in. You need to make sure that you are at a brokerage that matches the support that you need.
Yeah. And your broker, even if they don't offer it officially, can say, oh, well, Susie is a great experienced agent. She's mentored people in the past. Like, they're going to be able to point you somewhere.
Also, for our brokers out there, I think it is very important that you are mindful of what you tell the new agents. It is common for brokers to point to their top producers and say, look, she's in our office.
Yeah, go talk to her.
You can just go talk to her. It's like those top producers, we're busy.
Yeah.
And you have to be very mindful of volunteering their time for them as well.
Right.
So protect everybody's time. And before you give names, make sure that people are open for that.
Yeah. We just set expectations.
Yeah. If we set expectations, then nobody's confused.
No one's disappointed. No one has to ask if they're boyfriend, girlfriend.
Nobody has to ask that question.
Just tell me what the expectations are.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we do a toast?
Yeah, let's do a toast.
Great. Goodbye.
Hi, my name is Carolina Jordan. I live in the Charleston, South Carolina area. We are a team of Low Country Home Sales, and we are with the Coldwell Banker Realty brokerage in the Somerville area. I am a husband and wife team right now, and I want to toast my wonderful husband because he moved full-time into real estate, and he came with all his energy and helping me, and now we're a very successful team. We're getting team members into our team. So thank you so much, Adam. I really appreciate everything that you do. I love you.
Wait, before you go, if you enjoyed this episode and if we brought you value, take a minute to rate the show, leave a review, or drop a comment.
We are giving away our best stuff for free. Find it at hustlehumblypodcast.com/freebies.
We'd also love to see you in Hustle Humbly community. Join us there at hustlehumblypodcast.com/membership.
We love chatting with you in our DMs. Find us on social media at Hustle Humbly Podcast and say hello.
If you have an episode topic or someone you'd like to toast on the show, please email us at team@hustlehumblypodcast.com.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hustle Humbly Podcast. See you next week.